Hello, this is Noah from Noah Enjoys Media. Welcome back to the channel. I know that there was a lot promised leading up into the World Cup, and it hasn't really been delivered on yet. But in the next, I would say 24 to 48 hours, we're really going to start rolling on the train that is the upcoming World Cup, as we are, as I sit here, 16 days away, and I honestly can't be more excited. But there's something that happened today that we do have to talk about, and I think is the perfect lead into this more of a sprint than a marathon of coverage of World Cup teams leading into the tournament itself. And that's going to be that the US roster was formally announced today. Now, it was leaked on Twitter and Instagram, and I know people that I know and have found on social media have kind of leaked the roster, and to the surprise of me and to many, the roster was 100% correct. But first things first, the manager, Mauricio Pochettino, selected his 26-man squad that he deems to be the most fitting for going into the World Cup this summer. And I have some thoughts, I have some opinions, and on the whole presentation, not only just the roster that was selected. So welcome back. If it's not your first time here, welcome if it is. We're going to be really rolling this summer, kind of really getting into it. As you see, the new location, we're in the Batcave, and we're going to get rolling. So first things first thoughts come from the presentation of it all. Now, the US is hosting the World Cup, right? So they're trying to make things as Americanized as possible. Well, FIFA is kind of interfering in that. One of the main things being banning tailgating, which is, as someone who went to high school and college in the country, is something that is very, very ingrained in the American football culture of this country. But it is something that FIFA deems unsafe, and with the at the end of the day, it's their decision. And so this announcement was something that was not really normalized within the American soccer world. It's something we've seen previously with England, with Brazil, who has famously done this, and as well as other South American countries. So this is a step of the American soccer world kind of being involved in the global sphere, was making the roster announcement a big deal, right? And so they had 25 of the 26 players, Chris Richards, on the plane to Leipzig to represent Palace in the Europa Conference League final, so he was not there. But they also had a performance from Atlanta rapper Gunna, and as well as some of the a live show experience in New York City. So the weeks leading up to this, players such as Tim Weah and Tyler Adams were in the city talking with Zoran Mamdani, and the players have been around. The media coverage, Fox covered it on TV as well as on the Fox Sports app, so it was very accessible. But it was lacking something. So it really did feel, from my opinion, now I tuned in a little bit late. I tuned in when they started announcing the names and stayed through the concert, but it was rushed, and I think it made us look a little bit silly from the outside looking in. I think that is the best way to put it, is that the whole production of it all just felt a bit unserious. Now, during the roster announcements, they pulled multiple players for interviews. Beforehand, they also had some interviews with players, notably Weston McKennie. They had one with Tyler Adams as soon as I tuned in, and all the players actually looked, they had uniform suits with the US crest design where it would be on the jersey right over the heart. So that was a cool little touch. But in my opinion, the U.S. live coverage, Stu Holden is a big part of that. Guys like Alexi Lalas, Taylor Twellman. We don't really have anyone outside of Clint Dempsey who is really well regarded and well respected on the global stage. And I think that showed here today, where it was Stu Holden was doing the announcing of the World Cup, which, I mean, I feel like dimmed it a little bit. Like, I understand trying to get audiences familiarized with these names. Jenny Taft, I believe, I'm sorry, is someone who was doing the interviews, and I think did a really good job with what she was given, but it was in the middle of the roster selection when they had the players walk out. They pulled people for interviews randomly, right? Where if you're comparing it to like an NBA and NFL draft, where they have, 10 minutes in between each of these selections, where they have time for those kind of media focused moments, those television focused moments. This really did feel like a fan event that was then broadcasted. And so the production level of it wasn't as high, right? Obviously, I'm someone who's sitting in the basement recording this. Like, this is not something that an expert on production, right? TV production. But at the end of the day, if we want to make this feel like a big deal, make it a big deal. Put the effort in to make it a huge deal. And it really didn't feel like it. Part of it could have been that the surprise of who is going to be selected is kind of worn off because it was leaked beforehand for me. And speaking of those names who were selected for this World Cup cycle, let's get into it. So I have it pulled up on the computer. Starting with the goalkeepers, the veteran, the number one, that's going to be Matt Turner. This is not something that is a surprise. Really, none of these three goalies are a surprise, but this is someone who, after the last World Cup, really got his big move to the Premier League. He featured with Arsenal, featured with Nottingham Forest, on loan, featured with Crystal Palace last year as kind of a Premier League backup journeyman kind of guy, and had lost his spot as the number one goalkeeper for the US, so came back over to the MLS and has been a goalkeeper for New England Revolution this year, where he was originally at. He came home, and it is something that all three of the goalkeepers are from I'm sorry about this, talking about production value earlier. All three of our goalkeepers are from our nation, right? They are from the MLS. We don't really have that Tim Howard, Brad Guzan kind of figure right now, where they have a goalie that's going to be playing regularly in the Premier League. And with that, Matt Turner, though, is the one of the three of them that have that World Cup experience. Now, he's not the one that I assume will be featuring for this team. That is going to be NYCFC's Matt Freese. So having this be in New York City, you would think that they would have focused on the fact that he is not a New York homegrown, but is a player from NYCFC, right? He's from the team. You would think that they would focus a little bit on the MLS a little bit more. They mentioned something where we do have 8 MLS players that are currently in the roster, which that number seems a bit high to me, but it is what it is. We'll get there. But yeah, Matt Freese is going to be our number one, and he has been an elite level goalkeeper this season. He has been one of the MLS's best consistently over the last 2 years, and he's earned it. He's earned the called up. He's maintained good form, and while he doesn't have that name value yet, this is someone who could, like kind of Matt Turner did last cycle, and Zach Steffen has in the past, where he's using this World Cup and this stage as a launching off platform. So he's not going to be someone who's going to win us games, but he's also not going to make the big mistakes that will lose us games. The third goalkeeper on the roster is Chris Brady. He looked a little unsure of himself as he was walking. Like it was a quiet, calm confidence that was a little bit different than everyone else. And it's not that he shied away from the moment, but you could tell that the entire production, like he did not want to be there, I guess is the best way to put it. And yeah, but he's going to be our third goalkeeper. I don't think that there's going to be a world where he makes an appearance unless the United States wins their first two matches and are guaranteed a spot, which is very possible, right? That we are in that place, but even in that world, I think Turner makes that appearance. But Chris Brady, another MLS guy, plays actually for the Chicago Fire, so he plays for former Usmnt manager Greg Berhalter over there, and so he's again one of the top goalkeepers in the MLS. So you're bringing in your no exciting names, no names to write home about, but three solid goalkeepers that are going to be making the trip. Patrick Schulte, Columbus's goalkeeper, probably will feel the most hard done to not be there. He has made appearances in the past for the U.S. at both the youth levels and for the national team. Was part of the Gold Cup roster that disappointed, right? And so he's had a shot, but this season with Columbus being as bad as they are, I'm not surprised that these are the three names on the team sheet at all. So kind of stepping forward a little bit, the one man who wasn't there had a video called in, and that was Chris Richards. He is going to be the center back out of the three, with the amount of guys that can play center back and guys that play wing back, namely Max Arston, who are there. I think this is very likely what this team ends up looking like. Is going to be a 3-5-2 or a 5-3-2 defensively, but Chris Richards is going to be at the center of all of that. He is, and he's going to be the rock for this team. Like I said, he's playing for a European title, his third trophy in 2 years. That would be for Crystal Palace, and so he's playing at a very top level, and he is a defender that is not the best ball progressor, but is in a system where it is on those outside center backs to be able to progress the ball. And one of England's best, Mark Gahey, who he stood next to for a season and a half, and maybe 2 seasons because he went over there. Yeah, so just under 2 seasons, but a season and a half solidly of them playing next to each other, right? He was the solid rock defender. Has played more center back this season for Palace, just with the departure of Gahey and guys like Lacroix struggling with injuries at times. But yeah, and next to him, it's going to be the Villarreal center back, former MLS guy Alex Freeman. He is someone who I was very unsure of until this latest round of friendlies, where he has shown that he is much more than just a physical beast. Now, he's 21, he's one of the young guys on the roster, he is a debutant, and he is one of the most exciting players that we have going forward. He is someone that we're going to see on this team for a very long time. Can play center back, can play right back, can play a little bit more going forward, can offer you a little bit going forward, and has the physical tools to be able to recover and to stay with some of the best attackers that we're going to play. So one of the names that we have to worry about as Americans in the group is Arda Güler of Turkey, right? And this is somebody who's going to play against him, who has played against him at the top level in Spain this season. So it's someone who has taken that step, has proven himself to be a very important member of a Champions League qualified Villarreal. So a team that is playing very, very well at the top level in Spain, and a player that I'm really excited to see. Now, on that left side is going to be Celtic's Austin Trusty. So Celtic, it does employ 2 American center backs, Cameron Carter-Vickers, who was their first, and then Austin Trusty, who has kind of stepped out of his shadow almost over there and has become a leader and a star center back over there for the champions of Scotland in Celtic, and someone who Nancy did coach for a little bit over there, but he's one of the first names on the team sheet. Wouldn't be surprised if he got a move to a low-level team in England, though Celtic does seem keen to keep their hands on him, as he is kind of one of the rocks of that team. But if he were to make that step over, I wouldn't be too shocked about it. Now, hopefully the fourth defender on that team sheet is going to be Mark McKenzie, who's playing at the top league for Toulouse in France. So he is another guy with a lot of Usmnt experience. He's 27 now, so as our first golden generation is stepping into this more experienced spotlight, he's one of those names that is there, and that's going to be there, and deserves it. He has played extremely well as of late, has kind of nailed himself as a starter for Toulouse, and has really been a positive impact, and it's something where he just hasn't been able to prove it with the national team yet. That's kind of going to be a theme of some of these players, that we haven't seen the best of them. I think Trusty and Mackenzie both, we haven't really seen the best of them at the national team level as of yet. So if they play as they have the potential to, as they have shown at club level, this could be a very different team than if they play at the level that they have shown in the past for the national team. So right wing back kind of guy. Definitely the backup for Alex Freeman, I would say, and more of a defensive stalwart is Joe Scally from Borussia Mönchengladbach over in Germany. So another top-level player, and a name that some may recognize, as he has 24 caps for the U.S., has normally been a backup right back for Serginho Dest, and he still will be in that role. But he may, as guys like Miles Robinson and Tim Ream have made the call, have gotten the call, it's something where I would expect Joe Scally to be that backup right back more than he would play right center back. Maybe we see Freeman move out wide and Scally come in at that right center back position, but he is a player that can play both and has a little bit of versatility, and is a name that you would expect to see as one of these key reserves on this U.S. national team. Now, the other two center backs is where I kind of have a problem, and those are the names Tim Ream and Miles Robinson. Tim Ream is the Jordan Henderson of the U.S. national team, where he has become this Viking-like figure in the back, where he had a late career surge and became one of Fulham's best players into the last cycle, and was highly regarded by managers at the top of the game, such as Pep Guardiola. But at this point, he is 38 years old, and he, in the last World Cup, had shown that he doesn't have the legs to keep up with even a guy nearing the end of his career like Gareth Bale. So this is not someone who's gotten any younger since then. He has actively been playing at a worse level, and is not one of the best defenders in the MLS. And I think this is a leadership call-up, right? This is, you're bringing someone in who has that experience, but a lot of the guys that you're making the call of have international experience. This isn't a young team anymore. This is a team that is really hitting their stride. A lot of these guys are really hitting their prime, and the leaders on this team are hitting their prime, right? Your McKennies, your Pulis, your even Flo Balogun, like this is his second World Cup. Tim Weah was regarded as a veteran on the call, and I don't see the need for him here. And Miles Robinson, who has shown favor from multiple managers and is one of the best center backs in the MLS, and will be a cover left center back guy. But the choice of him over a Tanner Tessman, for me, is a choice that I truly do not understand. Tanner Tessman is a center back in a 3-back system that he has played this year at Lyon, and has also played center defensive mid. He's a guy that can play a couple of different positions, and with the injury, especially to Johnny Cardoso in the middle of the field, someone who would be on this roster if he didn't have ankle surgery, was injured in the semifinal of the Champions League playing for Atletico Madrid, and he is someone that the U.S. is going to miss in the center of the field, talking about key reserves. And his inclusion in this roster over Tanner Tessman is one that confuses me, to be honest with you, because Tessman has proven he can play that right center back position. And if you want to have someone like Freeman go a little bit further forward, say Dest, who is coming off of major surgery earlier this season, while has been healthy over at PSV, but if you want a different look, he's someone that you can trust to bring in. So I think even honestly even probably going to prefer him to Joe Scally just because of that flexibility. But guys like Ream and guys like Miles Robinson, are just players that I don't personally rate. Now both of them are MLS guys, and we could look into that a little bit deeper if we wanted to, but it's something that it is a position of weakness for this U.S. squad, and this defensive weakness is something that is working, right? And so looking at it as those are the guys that we have called up. Obviously, these are reserve players, but Chris Richards suffering with an ankle injury. Alex Freeman, this being his first World Cup, he's 21 years old. Trusty not being one of the older, more mature players on the team as well, and not having that World Cup experience as well. This is something that can be worried about. Now, going from a position of weakness to a position of strength, I would say for this team is the wingbacks. Left wingback Anthony Robinson was tied for the Prem lead in assists from the wingback position all time last season. Had a little bit of an injury bug at the beginning of this season, this past season, and so hasn't had that consistent momentum at Fulham, but he is still a Premier League level left back who has been linked with the top clubs in England and abroad. So he is someone that is one of those first names on the team sheet guys. He is now 27, so he is hitting that stride, and this is his second World Cup. Well, he may be technically limited in the build-up play and be a weakness in that if you give this guy some space and a target to hit across into, he's going to be your striker's best friend. He is great at that. He found his CONCACAF mate Raul Jimenez many times for Fulham, and has found every striker that has played for them in various ways. Now on the right side we have our Maverick, one of my favorite players and one of the favorite players to watch from this USA standpoint, and that is Serginho Dest. Now, he has not made the step up from PSV, where he moved after being kind of a reject from the Barcelona Academy. It is something where he is, like I said previously, he's coming off that major ankle injury, but he is someone who is a very exciting dribbler. He is a player that can create some things with the ball, with his technical ability, and can build up and kind of manufacture things out of nothing. And so you need those kind of players on both sides of the field. Now we do have Pulisic, but he'll line up on the left side. So Dest being able to create things not only in the attacking sphere, but going forwards is something that I think this team will be super excited about. And their backups, Max Arfston, who has been a contentious figure among fans, but has proven himself as a left winger more so than a left wing back as of late, but is an attacking threat and one of the best wing backs in MLS. And if we are going to be playing this system where he is going to be more asked to do more attacking things, then he is the player in our pool that you make that call to bring in. Now, John Tolkien, who moved over to Europe this December to try and get on the plane, it does not make it, and I think that is the correct call. But on the right side, it's going to look like Scally, but also the player who could be playing there, and also as a winger, is going to be Timmy Weah. So Timothy Weah scored our first goal of the last World Cup and is a super exciting player, but I do not know that he starts. I don't know that he makes the starting lineup for this team, and I think that's okay. He is a absolutely ridiculous spark off the bench, and is someone who can provide highlights for this team with his physical ability, and is someone that I'm super excited to see for this World Cup, and will play a role in this team's success going forwards. Now, we step into the midfield. The center mid position, which you have your two rocks, right? If we're going to be playing this five in the back, and then two holding midfielders, which is what I assume that is going to be played. That's going to be Tyler Adams of Bournemouth, who is hopefully our captain. He is the true Captain America. Now, I know Pulisic kind of has that moniker, but he's more of the Iron Man of this team, where he is the creator, right? He is the brain behind it all, but Tyler Adams is the solid enforcer. He is the guy that is going to make the tackle. He's the guy that's going to be talking trash, right? When he is at his best, he is someone who is one of the... He's a starting center mid for a European qualifying Premier League team who has not lost in the second half of the season. Now, you could say how much of that is him, but he is a key cog in that team and someone that the Bournemouth fans have really come around to and is a Premier League level player. Now, next to him is going to be Wes McKennie. He is arguably coming into this World Cup our team's best player, just because of the fact of Pulisic has been inconsistent this year, and Weston McKennie has had his best season with Juventus. Now, coming into every season, there's the consistent questions over his fitness, and it seems like every season McKennie has gotten to prove the new Juventus manager, as they've kind of had a rotating door, and honestly, they may have another one after Spalletti, even though McKennie spoke very highly of him in the interview today, but only qualifying for the Europa League this year after being knocked out by Galatasaray in a game that he played very well in personally. He's an exciting secondary creator, and it is an engine, right? So he is an engine of a center midfielder that can also ping a 40-yard ball right to a teammate's foot. And if we are going to have success in this World Cup, now what does success look like, we can talk about, but if we are going to win games consistently at this World Cup, Weston McKennie will be involved. And off the bench, for those kind of holding midfielders, this is where we are missing a guy like Johnny Cardoso. This is where we are missing Tanner Tessman, who was excluded from this call-up, but has had fitness concerns in the past. And we end up with two center mids from the MLS. Now, they are two guys at differing scales of their careers and both their viability for being here. I think Sebastian Berhalter has been one of the most exciting players in the recent rotated squads that Pochettino has put out, right? He's been very committed to seeing what all of his pool looks like, and Berhalter has been someone who has stood out not only because of his expertise on free kicks, but because he has been able to be that creative engine. And if we're looking for someone that can kind of propel the ball from the defense to the attack and get the ball to our playmakers, guys like McKennie, guys like Pulisic, guys like Gio Reyna, Tillman, people that can get the ball forwards, right? He is that. He is a absolute playmaker and a player that has shown up this season for Vancouver, has been their best player the last 2 years, really, and is deserving of this spot in the World Cup. And then you bring up Christian Roldan, who is not. Frankly, Pochettino and Berhalter before him have fallen in love with a completely average midfielder because he is safe. I said this a lot about Darlington Nagbe when he played for the Crew, who is a legend of the game, and also his role is a little bit different. But Roldan is not the best at anything. He's not exciting, right? But he is an extremely safe center mid. Now, Darlington Nagbe had a 90% pass accuracy because he would pass the majority of his balls backwards. And that's okay because you have a center defensive mid who can control the pace of the game. Christian Roldan is asked to be played in more of a playmaker 8 kind of role, and in a formation with only 2 midfielders, you don't have a room for someone who is safe. When you're going to be asked to build out of the back against teams that are going to press you, you don't have room for somebody that's safe, right? And this is where my personal biggest player who's missing out on this tournament is Aidan Morris. He has been a rock for Middlesbrough this season, had proven it at the MLS level and had gone over to the championship and was 1 game away from promotion to the Premier League, and 2 games away, I believe. They lost in the semifinal of the promotion playoff, but he is a player that has proven everything that he has needed to at the club level and has featured for this team in the past, was teammates with players like Arston, Berhalter. Like, he's kind of part of that Columbus Crew 2 core team that developed very, very quickly and has become some of the best players in this pool. And he has grown up and matured a lot in that Middlesbrough team and is in a team that is missing that true reserve center mid. He would be able to provide that role. He would be able to come off the bench, slot into one of those spots and look like he belongs on the field. Christian Roldan has proven that he cannot do that. He's had 45 caps with the United States, has not scored a goal yet, but also has not ever played exceptionally well in any of those appearances. So it is a name that I'm disheartened to see here from Pochettino, as he was someone who came in and kind of made that promise that what we have seen in the past from Berhalter was that lack of being able to kind of break away from your guys. Now, this is one of Berhalter's guys that are still making the roster and don't deserve to be here. Has not done anything this season exceptionally. Now, he is a consistent starter for the Seattle Sounders. He is a solid player for the Seattle Sounders and is an MLS legend. I will not take anything away from him at club level. That does not mean he needs to be here. And I think that it's a mistake to leave him out over Tanner Tessman and Aidan Morris. And kind of going into the forwards, the attacking mids, another name that you may be surprised to not hear is Diego Luna. While he has kind of fallen off a little bit and is of that older generation, I think that there are some younger players that are missing, right? A guy, if you want to make a statement, where does Calvin Sullivan fall into this? If you even looking at defense, where does Noah Kai Banks fall into all of this? One of the most exciting dual national prospects that the United States has and hasn't been able to get. That was something that Berhalter and the team did exceptionally well, especially bringing in guys like Zendejas, bringing in even Tim Weah, Flo Balogun, Ricardo Pepi, right? Those names were dual nationals that he could hang his hat on. Pochettino, this manager with a little bit more worldwide prestige, right? Managing at Tottenham, PSG at the top of the game, couldn't bring in these players, and that's something that I think the U.S. is really lacking right now, is conviction. And I think this squad selection really does lack conviction. So looking more into the attacking players, the players that we are going to need some conviction from, you have guys like, you have the tens, I guess, the creative players, the attacking creative players that we're going to see are going to be Tillman, Reyna, Pulisic. Now, Pulisic is the United States star. If you know anything about U.S. soccer, you know that name. Brendan Aronson also in there. But Gio Reyna, kind of the similar, if you were following anything with the last World Cup cycle, with the Berhalter family, with the Reyna family, that's a name you're going to recognize. Now, he is not a player that I have starting in this tournament, but like Timmy Weah, like Aronson, who we'll get to in a second, he is someone that can come off the bench and cause problems for any team that we will play against. And if he proves in the group games that he has made a difference for this team, then I could very well see him starting in the later rounds of this tournament if he has proven that his play is matching up to it. Now, he's another player that has done absolutely nothing at club level this season, and that's not something that can be taken away from him. If this spot were to have gone to someone like Xavier Gozo, who is hot right now at Real Salt Lake, or if this was to go to a player like Diego Luna, who has shown exciting flashes, right? This is your exciting flash spot, that backup 10 position, and Gio Reyna got that spot over those other names, over Calvin Sullivan, who it would have been a statement to bring to this World Cup. And he made his own statement with the MLS season of having both the US and German flags on his jersey, so cap tying him as soon as possible should be a priority after this World Cup, but that's something that we will talk about after this summer ends. But in those reserve position, the other starting position is going to be Bayern Leverkusen, who is a Champions League qualified team out of Germany. Is their club record signing Malik Tillman, who has proven he came through the Bayern Academy, another one of those dual national wins that the US has had as of late, but is a player that provides a lot of creative juice, and he's one of those guys where you have dueling 10 so you can get him on the field. You have multiple playmakers in attacking areas so you can get him on the field, and this could be his breakout moment. This could be his breakout tournament. This could be something that we look back and see as a stepping stone going forwards, and it kind of needs to be to take the pressure off of Christian Pulisic, as he's going to wear the weight of the world. We saw it last World Cup in Qatar, where he was wearing the weight of the US badge and the captain's armband, and so if guys like Adams, McKennie, and Tillman can take that not only creative freedom but that leadership burden off of Pulisic's shoulders, that's going to be extremely important for the US's success at this World Cup. Now, the player that's going to be coming in on the back of that is the Energizer Bunny, Brendan Aronson, who Bielsa, who's the manager at Uruguay for this World Cup, loved and brought into Leeds. He is part of the Red Bull project, and also known as the Medford Messi. But he's another player like McKennie who, while he's played at top-level teams, this season has been his most impactful, and is a player that he is one of the hottest players in our pool coming into this World Cup. Now, Leeds survived this Premier League season and finished, I'm just going to make sure I get this right, finished in 14th this season, so they survived very comfortably, and he was part of that. And the last time under now Canadian manager Jesse March, he was involved in that first season, absolute go, go, go style. But this season he has proven that he can not only press and be a menace, but he can be on the ball. And so this was a great season for Aronson's development, and I'm happy to see him back on the plane, because there were times when his spot on this team were in question. And up top, we have three names, and all three of them are absolutely deserving of being here. Flo Balogun, who was that big name coming into Qatar, has 8 goals in 25 appearances for the US, and is playing at AS Monaco over in France. Now, he had a very, very slow start to the season, and I think looking at the top players in this US pool, that word is inconsistency, right? McKennie has shown it throughout his career. Guys like Tillman have shown it at the international level. Trusty McKennie kind of in that way as well. Gio Reyna is the king of it, right? And Pulisic this season has been extremely inconsistent, and Balogun has been as well. There were a lot of question marks. There was a lot of concern that these guys haven't really played together all that much since Pochettino has been in charge, and that they haven't been able to gel, and they also haven't had consistent club level experience, right? This is not a team that's coming in to the World Cup having played together at all of their club games. While there are some players that will play on the same team, this isn't a team that has that cohesion, has that experience, but it's a team full of inconsistency, and Balogun is the talisman of that. Now, the best version of him is a star striker on one of the best teams in the world, and the worst version of him is a starter that isn't scoring goals in France. Now, France has dropped off a bit, but is still at top level, and is still a top league, and he's still getting consistent minutes in that French team, in that Monaco team. And so there is the worst version of him is the best version of some strikers that we have seen in the past for this U.S. national team. On a talent basis, this is still the most talented team that they have put together. It's more talented than 4 years ago, and it's only going to continue to get more talented going forwards. Now, speaking of forwards and talent, it's Ricardo Pepi. And Pepi over at PSV, the question has been health for him. He has 13 goals, the second most, actually, of all players that are going to be coming to this World Cup, only behind Christian Pulisic, who has 32. But if you want to look at top-level goal scorers for the country, it's Ricardo Pepi. Now, El Tren, as he is known, or the Train, is someone who has made his mark over at PSV, has been robbed of that top move, in my opinion, recently from teams like Fulham because of his medical history. So this World Cup could really be a stamp and really be a stepping stone to the future for him. And he still has so much in front of him. Now, speaking of future in the Premier League, it's Coventry City's Haji Wright. Now, he was known in the last World Cup as like Pulisic's best friend, and that's how he kind of got onto the plane, but this time he's done it with pure talent. He's done it by being the best player in the championship this season, and he's done it by being undeniable. Now, there were times where Josh Sargent would be in competition for that third striker spot, and the question of being in this formation, are we going to need a third striker? And I think Haji Wright made himself undeniable. He really did. And I'm super excited for what this World Cup means for him. Another player who is physically imposing. This team is going to be a very good set-piece team just because of if we can get that delivery from Pulisic, which that's really going to be the main question for me. We do have guys that can go over and make a play on the ball consistently. And so that's 25 of the 26. Now, the 26th player is, again, a safe choice, and that's Alejandro Zendejas. Now, he's a player that deserves to be here but does not fit the formation, where in the England squad we kind of saw the opposite of this with a guy like Noni Madueke, who does not deserve to be there but fits the formation. And you could argue Max Arston is one of those names that does not deserve it over players that have been left off, but really does fit the formation. Now, I think even with that argument, it's a dull one in the form of Arston, but that's neither here nor there. Zendejas is an out-and-out winger, but has been the best player for Club America, who is a consistent top team in Mexico and a consistent competitive team in Mexico and in CONCACAF. So he is a player, a Du National, who was on the last World Cup team as kind of another deep reserve kind of guy, has fallen away from the team as they have continued to rotate, but no one has been able to claim that spot, right? This was Diego Luna's spot to lose, and he couldn't do enough in the eyes of Pochettino, as it seems, to be able to get that last World Cup spot. Now, I will argue again, in the same vein of Christian Roldan, that this is where you could have picked someone more exciting. This is not a player who will play a lot of minutes, if I had to guess, at this World Cup, just because of his position, right? He is a true out-and-out right winger that will like to cut in on his left foot. There really isn't a place for that on this roster. I mean, maybe if you play Tim Weah at right wing back, you see him bombing down the right, and at this World Cup, right? Who could you have chosen over him? Now, the question is, could you have chosen Aidan Morris and kind of committed Roldan to more of that forward playmaker role? And if he's going to be there, absolutely. I think after the injury to Johnny Cardoso and the injury question about Tanner Tessman, I think he's a name that should absolutely be there. Could you have brought in Diego Luna, who has played in this formation but has really proven that he isn't kind of that guy, right, for this national team, right as of right now? That could change 4 years from now, but coming into this World Cup, he's not coming in hot. Could you have looked at some of the names in the MLS that are young and absolutely tearing it up, right? A guy like a Julian Hall, a guy like a Xavier Gozo is a name that I will continue to mention because I think he has a future not only at a top league, but for this U.S. national team. I think these are some of the names that you have to consider in that last spot, right? In a player who's not going to be making game-changing plays for you, but is going to be a player that you would like to feature going forwards. I think Gozo is that name. For me, he's the one that goes. Julian Hall is a name that could have gone. If you look a little bit deeper, is it Sullivan? Is it Banks? Obviously, Banks rejected the call-up in March to be a part of that rotated squad, but would he have rejected a World Cup call-up? I don't know. Even is there a guy like Sam Sarver who's been really hot in the MLS right now and can add something to your attack? Is this someone who you look for a more physical profile, right? It's something where this feels like in a different team with a different manager, this would be a profile pick. And looking at the pool as I go to Transfermarkt now, kind of it's a safe pick, right? It's a name that not only are U.S. fans used to the name Zendejas, but there is a stink about him, right? There is something where he has proven in the past that he doesn't have that level. And so kind of looking at this team, looking at are there names that even in the extended list that was released for this World Cup, like some of the training players, extended squad, there we go. Are there guys that could have made the plane? And I mean, it comes to me, CCV being injured, right? A guy like Tristan Blackman that may be able to offer you something at outside back, maybe, but that's not a name that I'm excited about. But I mean, I think this has to be a young guy's spot, right? Zendejas is not that anymore, right? Like, this team is not young anymore, and we're spinning our wheels with this current generation, in my opinion, right? Guys that have proven to be not good enough at the stage, that we're blocking the way for these younger players. Now, with that being said, I am a US fan first. I may have opinions, I may not like some of the choices that were made, but I will be supporting all 26 of these guys at the World Cup level, right? I will be rooting them on. I will be cheering for their success, because the best version of all 26 of these players can and deserves to be on this field. But are we going to get the best version of all 26 of these players who have been consistently inconsistent? And this US team is coming in at an absolute down point, right? We're coming into a World Cup off of a Copa America appearance where we could compare with the best in South America that we couldn't get out of the group in. Now, that led to the end of the Berhalter era, which led to bringing in Pochettino and into a safe situation for him, right? This was a very low risk. There was no qualification needed for this US, and then we lost the Gold Cup to Mexico in a tournament where Pulisic decided not to attend, right? This is something where the Gold Cup has lost a little bit of its prestige in CONCACAF, but we lost the Nations League to Mexico, right? We didn't even get in second place in that. We were in the third place game. We lost to a Panama team that we shouldn't be losing to, right? This is the United States. We were coming into the 2022 World Cup. We were the kings of CONCACAF, right? We were playing, I mean, there were guys like Matthew Hoppe and Richie Ledesma who were playing for this team and didn't really at the Gold Cup level, and were still exciting, right? And this last cycle, and especially lately, has been extremely flat from an international fan's perspective, coming into a World Cup that we are hosting. Now, all of that can change. All of that can change. When the first goal goes in for this US team, all of that will be gone, right? If we come out and our games against Paraguay, Australia, and Turkey, if we come out and we win all three of those games, the narrative completely flips, right? Pochettino's a genius. Everything is rolling. The U.S. roll into the knockouts with a little bit of momentum, which we've seen, right? We've seen this team batter a Uruguay team that was near full strength at completely rotated. We saw them win 5-1 in that game. But we've also seen this team absolutely crash out in CONCACAF qualification. We've seen this team crash out in CONCACAF tournaments, right? I mean, Trinidad and Tobago will still live in the minds of U.S. fans as whenever they watch this team, right? That is the start of this generation. The generation is building off of that loss. Now, they can, I guess, execute all of those demons, right? And did last World Cup cycle. But they went in to play against the Netherlands and they got embarrassed. Now, it was a very, very good Netherlands team, and we were nowhere near healthy, right? Pulisic missed that match, and we weren't good enough. We didn't have that next layer, right? And I think the reason I say this team is more talented than 2022, while they don't have momentum on their side as a team, there's a lot of players that are coming into this tournament hot, and I think the next layer is better than it was. I would be extremely excited if we had guys like Tessman, Morris, Cardoso, instead of guys like Roldan, Ream, Robinson, right? Those kind of names. But at the end of the day, this is why you have the MLS, right? This is why these teams have their leagues within them, right? Not only because soccer is a beautiful sport and it's awesome to watch, but you have that pool so they can create stars for you. Now, the success story of that is Sebi Berhalter, right? Sebastian Berhalter. And there are success stories all throughout the squad of being able to move on to the highest level. There's, I mean, all over it. We're going to see Esmir Baraktarovic from Bosnia. We're going to see Jan Diamande. We're going to see players that have come through the MLS. Jean Duran will probably, I'm actually not 100% on that one, but there's going to be a lot of names that are going to be recognizable to U.S. soccer fans at this World Cup, and it's so exciting. And kind of this being the launching off platform of that, I know it was kind of geared more towards the roster release, and it's a bit more negative than I want to be about this team, but right now it's hard for me to say, hey, we're going to come out and we're going to batter Turkey, right? We're going to come out and we're going to definitively put our foot down against a team like Australia. But the way that this team is set up and the individual pieces that are a part of it mean that the U.S. can be extremely successful in this tournament. And at the end of the day, I don't think there's a world where they get grouped, which means they just have to win one game after another. And once we get into tournament play, once it becomes a little bit more of that grit and that grind, that's where players like Tyler Adams, that's where players like Chris Richards, that's where players like Weston McKennie have shown, right, that second level, have shown that they can do it, and they can rally behind our star, Christian Pulisic. Because at the end of the day, this U.S. team will live and die on the back of Christian Pulisic. If he can come in and put in an absolute whale of a tournament, which he is capable of doing, he becomes a legend ingrained in this country's history forever, right? If any of these players can put in a tournament worth remembering, they will become legend in the U.S. soccer fandom, and they will become the launching off platform for the next generation that we are going to see. And as someone who is a young person, right, not at the talent level to play anywhere near the national team, right, but as someone who is a fan and is someone who watches these games and understands a little bit deeper and looks a little bit deeper into these games, this is exciting. This is awesome. And I wish every single one of those 26 players the best of success, and this opportunity to represent this nation is one that only comes around every 4 years and is not guaranteed. So overall, we're going to be rocking the hat. We're going to be rocking with the US, and we're going to be moving forwards through the rest of these World Cup teams, building off of these roster breakdowns. So thank you for coming along with this ride with me. I know it was a little bit ranty. It was a little bit and more negative at times than I kind of wanted it to be, but so a lot of these are going to be positive going forward because there are a lot of teams that I'm excited about, and even within this U.S. national team, there's a lot of things that I'm excited about. So have a great rest of your day. Peace.